Boom, and we are live. It's gonna be. I haven't read this in a while. I always get stuck at Genesis too, so if I actually do some videos on it, I think, and just continue to move on, I actually get through this book. So I guess the topic would be pretty much decoding the Bible, the book of Genesis, part one, because I'm most definitely don't think we're gonna get through the entire thing of Genesis. But just, I don't know, like if you're like traditional religious person, whatever, listen to this, I'd say just keep an open mind. Because I can't say these are facts or anything like that. But, we're just having a conversation. Hence the YouTube name of the channel, KeenConversation is overall, it's just a conversation. So, I know we were lied to all our lives. That's true. You can look at things now, man, just the way history is told, like, overall, like, the truth ain't being told. There's something weird about this world. There's something that's overall just not being told. So let's get into it a little bit. And I may skip around a little bit, but I don't know. I'll try to read this as if I'm reading it for the first time. But the priestly account. Heaven and earth, center and circumference, were made in the same instance of time. Clouds full of water, and man was created by the Trinity on the 26th of October, 4004 BC at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure that's some sort of joke or something like that. Let me see. This is probably could cut this out. I'm probably not, because I'm a little lazy. All right, let's get to the task at hand. Next paragraph. Like I said, that part at the top, I feel like just somebody being sarcastic, knowing exactly what time everything was created in one instance. All right, let's get to it. This was priestly knowledge of creation. That top piece up there, 17th century AD. What then of the 7th century BC? It should be understood that there was at that time no knowledge of man's natural development, anthropology, or of the creative process of cosmogony. To his priestly scribes, this world was the center of the universe, and man the sole concern of his creators. I'm gonna get down to like right here, because I've read some of this before, and it's just them sort of like saying that, look, these dudes didn't know anything, look at what they thought was true, and come on, like, you can't just take that for face value. Like, let's look deeper into things. We will not bore the reader with a verse by verse analysis, but as with the Bible, it seems a good way to begin. And so, Genesis 1, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. This very first verse disqualifies the Bible as authority, for it implies the foresaid lack of knowledge. The author did not know how the world was created, so he said God created it. This is ignorant's way of explaining what it does not understand. The author's resort to it here is reminiscent of something a literary critic once said. Whenever an author introduced a Chinaman in his story, I know that he is then writing about something he knows nothing about. The inscrutable Chinese. So with the author here, he is too writing about something he knew nothing about, namely causation and creation, revelation to the contrary. I don't know what, that's over my head as far as, I get what they're saying, like the guy doesn't know anything, but as far as how that relates to that author saying something about the inscrutable Chinese, I don't know. I feel you on that. I know you're wondering too. But overall, this, I think, is going to be a good read. Verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The spirit of God is a false term due to the idea of a personal deity. The creator, on the contrary, is not a spirit, nor has it a spirit. It is spirit in the sense of substance, a morally unqualified principle whose modus operandi, something Latin, is that of violence. I'm saying that the creator is violent. That's what they're saying here. Here it moved very gently above the water. No mention is made of the violence involved in the creation of the world, which includes the sun period, nor the trillions of years of time. No word of a war in heaven, as of John the Revelator. Nothing about a beast, a devil, Satan, opposer, just peaceful creation by word of mouth. This is woeful ignorance of cosmogony. In all ancient cosmologies, we find the creator battling with some cosmic monster, out of whose body the world was formed. Socios with Tiamat, Odin with Ymir. You can look these up. The Rig Veda gods with Purusha, etc. This we say is pagan ignorance and Genesis, the Hebrew's superior wisdom. This, for instance, where the Babylonian poet saw only the action of deified forces of nature, the Hebrew writer saw the workings of God. And that insight was inspiration. And right there, natural creation became supernatural, and that inspiration fastened upon Western man. Only now are we beginning to suspect it. Oh, I skipped a line. And that inspiration, superstition. The result was 2,500 years of benighted worship instead of welfare. This is the error and the evil this book fastened upon Western man. Only now are we beginning to suspect it. So just these thousands of years, man, where we feel like, oh, the world is getting worse and worse and worse. It's because of the interpretations that we've been taking from these books, and really the interpretations that's kind of shoved down our throats. Let me skip a little bit here. I highlighted this for some reason. The original Hebrew reads thus: in the beginning, Elohim, many gods, not created, but cut out the heavens and the earth. And the earth was Tabu and Bahu, and darkness was on the surface of the Tehom. Tehom is the primordial ocean, space or absolute. Tabu and Bahu, mistranslated, without form and void, connotes the monstrous and violent. So it's saying, if they're saying translated properly, Tabu means monstrous, Bahu means violent. As Professor Jeremias, the German I've never seen that word, Orientalist, says, there can be no doubt that Tahu is connected with Tiamat and Bahu is with Behemoth. Bahu is the equivalent of the Babylonian Aspu and the male mate of Tiamat. The male mate of Tiamat, which is Aspu. Thus, Bahu and Behemoth are the Hebrew equivalents of Tiamat, Ymir, Purusha, and so on. Altharianistic symbols of violent elements. All these symbols are violent elements with which the creator had to contend with. Elsewhere, they were called turbulentos, which kind of reminds me of turbulence, kind of violent, rough airways, I guess, when you're on a plane. According to apologists, the Bible is a Hebrew refinement of all pagan theologies, cosmologies, a process that completely obscured all knowledge of causation and creation. I'm going to go ahead and skip from here. Ooh, that was a lot of reading. And we're kind of going to get into it a little bit now, just kind of verse by verse a little bit, which they say they don't want to bore us. Yeah, verse by verse is kind of what people want. It's the verses that we're like, well, what does this verse mean? So let's go here. Verse 3. Here be, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. Here begins the fatal personification that has deceived the human race. A personal and vocal God said, let there be light. God said nothing of the kind. The allegory said he said it. which makes all the difference between superstition and knowledge. Man puts words into the mouth of his creations and then later believes these creations spoke. Verse 4, and God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Here again, God saw the light and thought it was good. Well, how did this priestly scribe know that he did? Did God tell him so trillions of years after the act? No, the world exists, and the author just assumed its various stages were right and proper. That this light is not sunlight. This light is not sunlight is obvious, since the sun, the stars, were not created till the fourth day. On the contrary, this light is that first primordial light shining in the darkness, and it is not produced by some deity saying let there be light. The one creative energy separated into two, positive and negative, and their interaction produced something luminous compared to the darkness of the absolute. According to the New Testament, this light shining in darkness was Christ, but actually it was Lucifer, the son of the morning of creation. In the power sense, none other than the Creator himself. It is the Hebrew concealment of this fact that is hidden from us the true nature of causation. The result has been 25 centuries of spiritual ignorance. This ignorance must now be dispelled. The time has come for an agonizing reprisal of the entire scriptures. Genesis is the place to start. Therefore, we too say, let there be light, but this time the light of understanding. Verse 5. I kind of went in a little bit on there. But verse 5. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and morning were the first day. Please note capital letters here. As the earth has not yet formed, nor the sun created, they are not our day and night. They are what the Hindus call the day and night of Brahma. And I've looked that up before, and that'd be kind of I don't feel like doing that now, but the way you really kind of like day of Brahma, like now I want to know what that is, so I would just go Google day of Brahma, but day of Brahma is like, I don't know, 4.3 trillion years. And you can look that up, but what they're saying is this day and night, he saw the light, he saw a day, he saw what God called that light day, and that day is 4.3 trillion years, and the night is 4.3 trillion years. So we're talking about, I don't know, 8 trillion years, which is a day and night. But not like, oh, the sun came up, it's the day, and then it goes down. Now it's nighttime. Everyone's talking about that because the earth wasn't created yet, according to the scriptures. But just from a literal sense, I would say, just from a literal sense, following this thing line by line, the earth ain't created yet. You'll see that in a minute. Oh, there you go. As these days are billions, if not trillions of years, we see here how much is covered and covered up by these 4 words, let there be light, and also how little they explain. Verse 6, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. 7, and God made the firmament, divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. The word firmament in Hebrew is rakia, and that means only a wide expanse, namely space. In this is the nascent planetary entity, a vast global field of cosmic energy. The ring past not of ancient cosmology, the division of waters, energy, above and below, is but the division of planetary elements from absolute being to non-being. So they're kind of saying here that this is the process of creating something from nothing. But overall, it's not some man doing it. It's the chemical processes that are just naturally occurring. Like, I mean, to us, it's just naturally, like, there may be something above that, but we'll continue and get into it. And God said, let the waters under heaven be gathered unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. But assuming that this dry land is our present physical earth, we have missed the whole meaning of this chapter. Namely, that it deals with only the pre-physical world. The division here is not between land and water. The division here is between spiritual and material. The spiritual being the water, the material being land. Trinity and quaternary. I don't know what that means. It's something that, look that up. I want to kind of try to get through this a little bit, so I'm not going to pull up. Or really, should look up both of those and get a better understanding of those two. But the first example, spiritual and material, land, water and land, spiritual and material. This took place on the cusp of the third and fourth evolutionary planes. I don't think that photo is a little bit further back. I'm not about to go find it right now. The priestly error lies in leaving the spiritual behind to be worshipped and adored, whereas the material four are the concretion of the spiritual three. The creator burns his bridges behind him, but this would never do for a religion, so the priest concealed it. So they're saying here that the separation, when you go from that spiritual to physical, like the spiritual is left behind, is really saying that, based off our religion today, that would mean God has hands off. Like there isn't a God like judge this or that or whatever. Like we're going to be judged right here on earth. Pretty much. We're going to be judged in the physical. But that takes away the power of the priest. Like that takes away like you determine if you get to God or not. Not, some guys, that think they run the world and they have all the godly information and they write all the books and this, that, or whatever. Or they take all the ancient books and then manipulate it into something that makes it seem like they're the only ones with the answer. Verse 10. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. Oh, hold up. I'm going to see, can I pause this real quick, and then I'm going to have to. So that's 1730.
Hey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Very well, actually, not bad at all. All right, we're back at it. So don't have to cut anything out because I was actually able to pause, so that works. Yeah, I know I'm breathing a little bit hard too. Shit, I'm fucking 3 flights of stairs. I don't care. I'm playing softball right now, running around. Every time I come up them stairs, take a few breaths. As a matter of fact, we pause this for a second again. And we are back. All right. I think I was on 11. So, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb yielding seed and the fruit yielding seed, fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. This priestly scribe saw clearly that everything in the world comes from a seed within itself. And this is one of the most important things I found, I think personally. So I say pay attention. But he could not or would not see that this is so of the world also. Basically saying if every living thing comes from a seed, our planet came from a seed. Had he said that it is a cosmic plant whose seed is in itself, what a difference it would have made. The supernatural would have blinded us to the natural. Divinity would not have diverted us from reality. 12. And the earth brought forth grass, herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself. Grass, trees, fruit, and all this before the sun was ever created, or ever it had rained on earth, according to Genesis 2:5. This is real occultism. Occultism means hidden. Occult means hidden. CULT is, the crazy religious cult thing. OCCULT just means hidden. And not one of our ecclesiastics knows what it means. With our theory, however, its meaning is obvious. On this third plane, grass, trees, and fruit are purely ideative, defined in our outline as planetary ideation. On the metaphysical planes below, this becomes archetypal. There can be no other meanings to Genesis 2, verses 4-5. The Lord God made the earth and heavens and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. The Jews got this bit of occult truth from the Hindus. According to their cosmology, all evolutionary forms were first created in the mind, astral and etheric matter in involution. These serving later as models for the physical. This did not mean that every form that has appeared in evolution was there in the archetype, thus proving each a permanent entity, as some would like to believe. On the contrary, the kingdom prototypes were there and their first evolutionary counterparts were endowed from the beginning with the capacity of incalculable proliferation. Hence, the Mariots today, the Mirads today, be this as it may, to understand the myths such as this, we must cease to think of Earth as of now and think in terms of cosmic entity, invisible but evolving and creating for trillions of years before it actually became visible, a concrete object. This is the aforesaid key to the biologic kingdoms. There the reader may have his doubts, not knowing he had read it all before. This is page 32. Let me go back and show you that involution chart, because it does give you, I ain't gonna say help you understand, but you'll kind of figure out what's going on. So it's like these are the 7 days of the creation, aka the 7 involutionary planes. So one day, 4.3 billion years, or 4.3 trillion years. Another 4.3 trillion years, another 4.3 trillion years. Day 4. We started to see these things. We started the calculations of the earth and the plants and everything that was going to go on there, the heavens, all of this stuff. It was mental matter. All right, so just kind of, let me go back to that again. So just on sort of the plane. So really, yeah, it was the 7th day. So we're not even talking about really anything physical until we truly get here, the 7th day. I'm about to sneeze in a second here. Excuse me. All right. Where are we? All right, we're down here. In the evening, in the morning, we're the 3rd day. So remember that chart up there. We're not even truly in the mental plane yet. I don't have a complete understanding of these planes either, by the way, so don't just hold me to every little word. But what it is I'll say I know, because we're reading this book and we're just hopping into the mind of the author here. At this point, we're pre-physical. I know that. Regardless whether it is in the mental or not, we're pre-physical. Everything we're saying right now, nothing physical has been seen yet. And the earth brought forth grass. We ain't talking about physically. Herb yielding seed. The author is not talking about physically. I say we because I'm stepping into them shoes right now. This 3rd day in plane is the end of the ideative period, and you will remember it. It was here Uranus, the last god of the Greek Trinity, was dispatched. This is correct since he represented the end of ideation. Creation went on, however, under Chronos. This is Greek henotheism, one god at a time. No such change is recognized by the priest. However, to him, the same God remains throughout. So here's someone picking up that I haven't picked up before, is that in Greek mythology, they at least said there was the different gods. The different gods were the different planes of creation. Here, and with Christianity, is just saying, hey, this one God was present all the way through these creations. But the thing is, God is not this man. It's the creator is energy. And so this energy is changing. That's why a lot of ancient religions have different gods, different energies. The wind energy, the water energy, the sun energy. There's going to be destructive. That God has 2 sides, like the wind energy. I mean, the wind can be that nice little breeze that you need on a summer day. Or it can be that blizzard, or it can be that tornado. It can be that hurricane. I mean, it's 2 sides. I mean, maybe it's more than one side. I mean, yeah, it's surely more than one side. It's like you can go to either end of the spectrum. Let's keep it moving. Now, since there is only one creator, this method is defensible. But it hides from us all the important fact that the creation of worlds is a natural process, cyclical in nature and incalculable in time. Verse 14. I mean, that little statement right there is just saying that the whole one creator thing makes it defensible that some dude just sat and created all this stuff. That's what they kind of say here. Hence, they don't really focus on the Elohim portion of the Bible, which means multiple gods, multiple energies. Verse 14. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, and give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God sent them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And now that earth is ready for business, it needs lights, and presto, they're made. Kindergarten cosmology, also geocentric, the sun, the moon, the stars, were made just to give light to the earth. Again, we wonder what these semi-ancients knew about galaxies a billion light years away. Yet here and there in their borrowed cosmology, we find traces of the original occult meanings in spite of the priest's destruction thereof. This is such a case, and it is truer than modern science. For decades, science told us the earth was thrown off from the sun. Now it is back with Dr. Lightfoot and the priest. Instantaneous creation, not only of the world but the universe. The priest must have nodded here, for all unintentionally he tells us the earth was made first, and this is correct. The earth is older far than the sun. As we said, suns are the youngest visible bodies in the universe. At the time in the earth's history referred to here, our sun was not yet visible, and the moon was I don't know that word. Nascent was a nascent planet. I need to just look it up. Let me look it up real quick. Shit. Quit being lazy. Oh, I need to get a charger. Make that happen like that. There we go.
Nascent.
Just coming into existence. All right. So the moon was just coming into existence. All right, but they said here that the priest must have nodded here, for all unintentionally he tells us the earth was made first. All right, so let's go back and see, where does he say the earth was made first? God said, let there be lights in the firmament, and divide. Let there be lights in the firmament, give heaven to give light. Oh, see, he created the firmament of heaven to give light upon earth. So I mean, earth was there. He gave light to light it on earth. Basically, he did what he did in the firmament to light up earth. Like, how you gonna light up something that ain't there? And God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon earth. And he said that again. All right, cool. So let's go to verse 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. The waters here are the pre-physical substances. In evolution, these become the seven planes. These are the seven heavens of Kabbalah in some religions. So the waters are those seven planes. That triangle I was telling you, that's the waters. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. Well, seeing is believing. Apparently, this God wasn't sure until he did see. As for the whales, if the creatures evolved from land animals, science would say this reveals a woeful lack of knowledge of evolution. But this is not evolution. It is involution. And the whales are archetypal whales. The Bible does not stop to explain It merely states occult truths in cryptic fashion and leaves us to understand when and if we can. The tragedy is that it has never been understood in the Piscean age. So I want to look up what's archetypal. I want to see what that means. Thank you for spelling that correctly. A very typical of certain kind of person or thing. A recurrent as a symbol relating to or denoting an original that has been imitated. The archetypal believer and archetypal journey represent the quest for identity. I'm trying to see which will be the best ones. All right, so this is just sort of, it's not really saying anything. It's an archetypal country doctor, archetypal journey, archetypal believer, but I guess just some sort of certain kind recurrent symbol. Let's try to put it back here. It's saying that seeing is a believing. As for whales, we're talking about archetypal whale. And if they're archetypal whales, so there are certain kind of whales. I mean, I guess it would be more here mythology. These are mythical whales, is what the author is saying. So I'm gonna continue. They didn't go into deep explanation on the whales, because that's something that as a person, we going line by line, you could stop and just sort of be like, well, what do you mean by whales? What is the whale? Also, whale is not capitalized here, so usually when if something's capital, that's most definitely a signal that, hey, we're talking about just something on a spiritual level where it's like you shouldn't take this for what you see. So that's why I make that point of it. It is lowercase, so that's something there that isn't explained completely. But I guess take into account everything else that's been said as well. Verse 22, and God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and morning were the fifth day of involution. Where every creature in evolution a permanent monad, there would have been no need for multiplying at the start. Yeah, so if every creature was already placed here and boom, yeah, it wouldn't be no need to multiply. Everything's here already. And God said, let there bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and the beast of earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. Before it was on earth and before it grew. 2:5. So he's going back to let us know, like, all these things before they were even on earth to grow. All right. And God said, let us make man, should be man, capitalized, in our image, after our likeness. Let them have denomination over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Here a singular creator suddenly becomes plural. Yeah, let us. The word comes from Elohim, and the means of counsel, a council of the gods, the creative aspects of the one power. It was here at this same point in Greek myth that the Titans were beginning to create man. The Elohim were inferentially 12 in number, since there are 12 Titans, 12 powers of the zodiac, where this physical man, the Bible would be wrong not once but twice. First, man did not have dominion over everything in the beginning. He achieved this only as he evolved. Second, man was not here, save potentially at the beginning of biologic life. In evolutionary process, the kingdom forms came forth in a sequence in a sequence, the reverse of that in involution. That is, the plant was first in evolution, therefore last in involution. Man was last in evolution, therefore first in involution. And the first shall be the last, and the last shall be the first. Man is the consummator of the Creator's plan, therefore first in ideation. The priestly scribe did not know these things, so has man created last in evolution. The meaning here, however, is dual. The generic man is the creative power when it got down on lower planes. Which to me that makes sense, is because now we are the creators. Like, we're the ones that's changing the earth, and I mean, we're very, very small in the universe, but we're changing things in space and all of that. Like, we're creating things now. Like, we are the physical manifestation of this energy. I think everything is, but we're like the culmination of it. Like, once it reached that fine point. And so now, as the human race started, we're beginning to move back toward like a spiritual plane that can't be seen by the eyes. I know that's like deep and way out there. I have no idea what that's going to be like. Can't even fathom it. But we're in a constant state of change, and everything is cyclical. Like, we're going wherever we came from, we're going back to. Stop that. The dominion given to him is over the planetary entity. This is now Adam, and save for priestly prerequisite, the God of the Bible could be dispensed from here on. Biologically, Adam is the creative genetic principle in matter. And, makes sense because atom, A-T-O-M, is the creative genetic principle in matter. And I wonder how many realize that the biologic genetic is the only creative active function of God in evolution. Maybe I picked that up when I read this before, but I literally just said that. They said it and then I went into it and they explained it, and my explanation seemed to be right. All other activities in nature are but energy and action. Wind, rain, earthquake, volcano, and so forth. Not acts of God, but planetary functionalism, as we said. So here, we're probably going to get into this, read this on the next chapter. But you hear how, this is the age of Pisces, represented by the fish. That's why, represents Jesus. That's like the era of Christianity in the form that, we've had it. We're moving into the age of Aquarius, but we're really, in the book explaining this to me, and I've heard Dr. Phil Valentine say it as well, was that we're really moving to the age of the Leo, to where we have to be burned by the ether. Like, all that bullshit that we've learned all this time has to be burned. Has to be burned away. It's like gold. We have to burn away all the impurities, and then you can gain access to that divine consciousness. But we have to get rid of, we're still in a material stage, because that's the shorthand. Like, let me let them explain it. But you see here the processional hand, 2 is the evolutionary hand, and 3 is the condition index. So 2, we have the human kingdom. Like, evolution has brought us to the human kingdom. The conditions that the humans are in is the Leo stage. We're in the fire. And I guess from there, if you do, burn those impurities and really kind of like continue to grow and continue to learn, you can proceed to the divine. But let's get into it here. In our cosmology, we did not make man and God identical. We did not, out of respect for man, the subsequent moral, I don't know that word, epigene, I think I got it right. We did not want to make this moral being responsible for the murderous violence of a non-moral creator. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female. He created them. And that is the tragedy of man and the source of his violence. Has it ever occurred to you that this image of God, your body, is a moral, spiritual, social know-nothing? Of your morals and manners, it has no knowledge, and so, at the most inopportune moment, it may want to relieve itself. On the very day you need your strength, in which the most, it will get sick or keep you awake the night before. Yet, this know-nothing is the one part of us God made without man's help. Why then attribute morality and omniscience to his creator? Man is made in the image of God only substantially. If morphologically, we must conclude that God has a stomach, alimentary system like man, sex and organs. And this is just sort of the trick of we made him in his image. If we take that as his word, God saw, God said, all this stuff, that leads us to believe that he has sex organs. One might wonder what he does with them, since in Judaism and Christianity he has no female consort. Well, he creates worlds with them. This is the seed of Abraham and the testee of the testament. Thus, this world was not created by God's vox, but by his sex. Here, as yet, his creations are not physical man and woman, but they are evolutionary archetypes. After the ideation thereof, on the sixth plane, this evolutionary image was in etheric matter, which gives rise to false metaphysical doctrine that evolutionary man was first an etheric being. He was so only in involution. In evolution, the organism acquires the etheric. It also acquires the astral and is today building an astral replica of the physical body. This will be our vehicle on the higher planes. It may be even now the vehicle of Venetians, if such exist. The words male and female in Hebrew are sakri and nekabava, one with the phallus and yoni, the genetic principle. Throughout the Bible, the male represents creative ideation, which was first. The female represents substance, matter, created later. If this be not the meaning, then this first chapter flatly contradicts the second, which says that man was created first and woman thereafter. So that portion right there is saying how that, because we're talking about everything in the spiritual right now. Like, you had this ideation period of creation when everything was in the mind, like everything was being created. And then eventually that became the physical. So it is the creative ideas of man, of the male, that creates the female. So the woman being created from the rib of a man, in the sense, is saying that matter is created from ideas. And God blessed them and said unto them, verse 28, and God said, bless them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, however the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea and the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Well, it's nice that God has someone now to talk to. Hereunto, we're up here. He's been talking to himself. The word replenish here implies restoration of something previously taken away. That something was the fifth plane creations in the astral matter, which must now be recreated in the sixth plane, etheric matter. Thus, the Bible is not speaking of human beings on evolutionary life, but of involutionary archetypes. Yet, upon these literal words, the Catholic Church urges its people to multiply regardless of means. God did not say these words, a Jewish priest said them, and he isn't even talking about humanity. Yet his literal minded successor uses them to make irresponsible parenthood a virtue, and irrational proliferation a sacred duty. In spite of the population explosion, parents must have 6, 8, a dozen, not for society's sake, but for Catholicism's sake. The right to propagate at will is, I suppose, the fifth freedom. But like all other freedoms, when exercised by ignorance, it is inimical to social welfare. I'm assuming bad to social welfare. We have restraints against all the others, but not against the fifth. Instead, it is politically encouraged for security, religiously sanctified for the church. To the intelligent, however, an ignorant and prolific female mass-producing humanity is one of the most shocking things in human life. Every child is a potential for good or evil, with which all human society must deal. Yet here is a socially irresponsible creature turning out multiple problems in blissful ignorance of everything save the biologic function. Such procreation reduces man to the level of the beast. Instead of sacred duty, it is one of the greatest crimes. Instead of a blessed event, a monstrous impertinence. If the race would solve its crime and social problems, it must begin with the irresponsible problem breeders. Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I kind of get where you're going a little bit, but figures a little bit of a stretch. I mean, it's all about nature. To me, it's a lot about nature. Like good and evil is how you're raising these kids. Now, if you're saying that it ain't enough parents to be having all these kids and you're not going to be able to really take care of your child and give them everything they need or whatever, and some of them going to be ungrateful and evil and whatever, I don't know what the hell you're saying. I just don't particularly agree with that. Not disagreeing, but it just seems like a little bit of a reach. They must be made to realize there is no divine authority for ignorant propagation. It is but nature's prolific fecundity over which man should also have dominion. The church's attitude towards this well illustrates the consequence of our ignorance of causation and the facts of reality, for there is no soul involved in conception. There isn't even life, only the life principle, and that this we destroy every day. Verse 29, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon earth, wherein there is life, I've given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And it was because trillions of years thereafter man made it so. But he did not make it according to his command, to this command. God gave the plant kingdom to both man and animal for meat, but he did not give the animal kingdom to man for meat. Yet God's chosen people ate meat and also sacrificed animals to their God, no mention of which is made here. Were this right as important as it subsequently became, one would think it would be authorized here. If this sacrifice was not also mythological, it was probably a clever means of filling the priest's own larder. Bring us your lambs, your heifers, but don't ask what we do with them. And God saw everything that he had made, and beyond it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. The sixth day is the last day in which God looked upon his work and called it good. This is no doubt was because the work of the seventh is the creation of matter and the source of evil. We include here the first 3 verses of the 2nd chapter. They belong to the priestly account. Such was the editor's idea of sequence. Thus the heavens and earth were finished, and all the host of them. Archetypal only. And this is archetypal only. Else later parts of the Bible are sheer nonsense. The ark, for instance, explained later. And on the 7th day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day for all his work which he had made. The motion in an atom, great as it is but slow motion compared to that of pre-atomic planes. Evenly, I don't know, that's a typo. Evenly, this high rate Eventually, I think that's a typo. This high rate was arrested in this matter, number 7. This does not mean, however, that the Creator did nothing on this day. He but ended his work on this day, and the end of his work was the creation of the whole physical world. The morning of this day is the early sun period, and all between this and the beginning of evolution, condensation, radiation, de-evolution was done on this day. Here, so I'll finish this real quick. Here, as in the polar opposite, the absolute, the life principle was inactive and asleep. De-evolution is strictly an energy function. Elsewhere, the Bible tells us this begins at the third and fourth halfway point. See diagram page 444. Yeah, after all that reading, take a breath. Shit. So what they're saying here is that the 7th day is when there was a physical sun, finally. Boop. Universe, assume all this or whatever. The sun began to condense down, and all that energy condensed down into itself, leaving an earth where living things could, actually live on it. Like the water could go from these fire lakes into, they would cool down into regular water. And just overall, you start getting vegetation. To me, I see it in my head as like all that energy from the sun condenses down into the core of the earth. Now you have a hot core, and it's providing energy to the rest of the planet. And once that core runs out, the earth becomes the moon. Our earth we're on is going to look like a moon after about 4.32 trillion years. The word for the week in Hebrew is 7. This, however, is a cosmic week of 7 planetary days. This 7-day creation is by no means original with the Hebrews. Ancient cosmology was based on it. The mystic 7. In Greek mythology, the gods created the world in a week of 7 days. And in Hindu Puranas, Brahma does likewise. The names of the 7 days are found in Hindu manuscripts as early as 5000 BC. Nor was it the Hebrews who first made the 7th day a sacred day. Before this priestly account was written, 4th century, Hesiod, 8th century, said, the 7th is the sacred day. And later Pluto wrote thus, the gods, pitying the laborious nature of men, ordained for them as a rest from all their labors the succession of religious festivals. The first of these was every 7th day, while the 7th day of every month was dedicated to Apollo, the sun, hence our Sunday. Not even the word Sabbath comes from the Hebrews. It derived from the Babylonian Sabbatu, day of rest, observed by them long before the Hebrews. So like as we look at Hebrews as our historical ancients, like they got their stuff from other places. The problem as to why the Hebrews chose the Babylonian Sabbatu as a name for these days of rest is a mystery. The idea of a regular 7th day of rest arose in Babylon. Of that there can be no doubt. Professor Langdon. There is no mercy. There is no mystery about it. The Hebrews got all their pre-physical ideas from older races. There is practically nothing in the Bible that cannot be found in other literatures. Convinced of its originality and revelatory nature, we just don't look elsewhere. Looks like we're moved all up into chapter 2 here for a second, because we're at verse 3. And God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. And the author explains here, God did not call this day's work merely good. He did still better. He blessed and sanctified it, not because in it he had good rest, but because in this 7th day and plane, he achieved the goal of consummation of all his effort, namely the material earth. Those despisers of matter should make note of this. Trillions of years of evolutionary labor are not for nothing. A physical world was the objective. Neither are millions of years of evolutionary labor, hence the significance of our physical body, the human correlate of the physical earth. Now we have interpreted this chapter in terms of our own theory, but not in terms of it alone. These are the terms of every ancient cosmology of which we have knowledge. They tell only the story of the world's creation down to dense matter, and include man only as the symbol of the creative principle. The priestly account confirms to the pattern. There is in it no mention of Adam, only man, a generic term. No doubt there was originally a Yahwist chapter covering the same ground, but it is now lost. This is a great misfortune because it might have given us a viewpoint quite different. We said lost, but no, it was destroyed. To those who defend the Bible, we should say, produce this lost and destroyed original, that the priestly substitute and its perversion may be made known. Today, we know the world was not created as per the priestly account. Why then do we respect it? Why do we accept it as part of the word of God and let it tyrannize over us? It is not God's account of creation. It is priestly ignorance thereof, and we accept it only because we too are ignorant of this subject. The creation of a world is a metaphysical process, and we here repeat, Western man is incapable of true metaphysical thought, so he blindly accepts this false account of it. The suns are the creators of worlds, not gods. This the ancients knew, and it became the basis of their sun worship. Today we think of this as pagan ignorance of the one true God. But alas, the ignorance is ours, not theirs. The story is told of a Christian bishop who said to a Parsi, "So you are one of the particular fellows who worship the sun?" "Yes," the Parsi, "and so would you if you had ever seen it." No, the bishop had never seen the sun mentally, and so he worshiped a mythical creator instead of the real one. And I'm sure he thought his form of worship vastly superior to the peculiar fellows. And now, if this first chapter is false, what of the rest of the book? It is like nature, a priestly hoax intended to deceive us, and nowhere has it succeeded more than in the first 4 chapters of Genesis. Now, here's our evolutionary planes again. Involution looks like us. I guess it's going up. Evolution is also going up as well. So I don't know. I was just trying to think of, what this means or whatever. Like, why is this on this side? Why is this on this side? Because we're involving, like God is here, but we're involving to the point to where everything's condensed to reach the point of man, the actual human beings, and then evolving back up. That's what I'm saying. All right, so let's get to it. Now, to understand these chapters, we must know where and what Eden was, how it differs from the Garden of Eden, what paradise was, and what took place therein. We generally think of Eden and the Garden of Eden as one, but the Bible says the garden was planted eastward in Eden, and Eden then is something bigger than the garden. All right, so the Bible says that the garden was planted eastward in Eden. The planetary entity is the pre-physical state. Prior to matter, the mythic source of evil. Eastward, that is, forward in this, was planted a garden. Now in cosmogony, what other garden is there save a life-bearing planet? In this case, the earth. So the garden is the earth. The Garden of Eden is the earth itself, planted eastward, that is, forward in the creative process. The Hebrew word Eden comes from an old Babylonian name for Mesopotamia, Gan Eden, the Garden of the Middle East. The word Mesopotamia also means Middle Land. So also the Norse Midgard, home of the gods. Throughout mythology, which includes a scripture, the Middle Land is that middle ground between involution and evolution, namely the Earth. Because Earth is sort of that end point of involution and the beginning point of evolution. In my opinion. How absurd then to think the Garden of Eden was somewhere in Mesopotamia. How absurd also to call a primeval world a garden. This is some more priestly concealment of the truth. Now, billions of years later, it is something of a garden, but Adam is still raising Cain in it. And not because he ate an apple, but because of the nature of the being. So the Garden of Eden is forward in Eden. So Eden is there. Eden is the last four planes of creation, of involution, really creation. Okay. The east in involution becomes the west in evolution. Thus, happy lands are always in the west. Fair Eden is one, with all the happy lands always in the west. The Hesperides, Elysian Fields, Fortunate Isles, Isles of the Blest, and the brave Valhalla, whose passing in Gotterdammerung, the twilight of the gods. Prior to this, all was well with them. There was no matter, the source of evil. The food there was nectar and ambrosia, symbols of etheric and astral mental elements. This was the paradise mythological man lost. We need not mourn for it, however, for it was not only well lost, but meant to be lost. The process must be gone, so eastward in this was planted a garden. Now all members of secret orders know what eastward, etc. mean: forward, toward the light, spiritual attainment, and so on. This is all right in evolution, for evolution is toward the light. But in involution, it means the very opposite, toward the darkness, toward matter, toward evil. Like matter is evil, toward life, like toward the ability to live. Live is live. Thus, the west to us, the place where the sun went down to dense matter, this is paradise lost. And paradise regained is but its evolutionary opposite, the life principles, freedom from bondage and matter. This is why we place it in evolution also, and why another creator soon to be released from matter said, "This day shall be with me in paradise." All right, I think this is where we're gonna stop here. But there's just a couple books like this cat was reading from. If you see a one somewhere, wherever it was in this chapter, there was a book called The Bible in the Making. From Moon's Myth, there's another book or something, Moon's Myths and Man. There was another book there. All right, so yeah, we'll start back on page 46, part 2, Genesis, the second chapter. I'm going to pause this, and what I want to find a bibliography real quick. So page 46, we're chapter 2. I'll remember that. So where is it's dedication, table of contents, copyright, half title, dedication. The Bible is the book of the church. Jewish church stands behind the Old Testament. Table of contents. Well, I'm in the table of contents. Let's look more. There's Revelation, Index. Because I was listening to a video on this and they were talking about the bibliography. Maybe if I just go to the last page, I'll find it. It's Index. I'm going to have to find it for this book. I would like to get this book physically. I think I'm going to order it just so I have it. Nice little collection. Yeah, I'm not seeing it there, but it must just be at like the bottom of the pages. All right, so if we go back to Genesis, I don't see it there. Yeah, so it was at the end of the chapter. So if I go to let's go to chapter 3 and go back up. I don't see it here. I guess it's just certain pages. I don't know. Like, okay, here's something here on the next chapter. See that real estate stuff popping up. Like, always learning, man. Like, you gotta be versatile in this world. Not in letters, but in numbers. There are 2 zodiacs. I mean, these are notes and stuff. I'm gonna find a bibliography to this because I want to see. We saw the bibliography. We saw some of the books, but I know it's more. It's a lot more. But like I say, that being said, man, appreciate y'all. If you're listening to this, like, hit the like button for me, subscribe, share it for me. Let's have a conversation. I would like to talk about this. If there are any points where you're like, I don't know about that, let's talk about it, because we both are going to learn like a bunch. Because I'm not stuck in my sort of ways, but I just feel like, I mean, I know everybody knows that with the way we were taught, you were always like, that don't make sense, man. I'm going to have faith. I'm going to keep it moving. But God, man, that don't make sense. So I just had a conversation, because I always tell a little saying I got from Dr. Phil Valentine is that, you call your God Jesus, regardless of what I call mine. And in order for us to have a conversation, I can come to your plane. I can go to your level, whether it's up or down. And if what we're talking about is the creative energy that should be worshipped, and you call that Jesus, hell, I can call it Jesus with you. Like, I know what we're talking about here. But appreciate y'all. Peace, man. Enjoy. Hope everything goes well. I'll catch y'all on the next one. See ya.